So today I want to talk about just a tube amp as a platform. Did you hit on?
Lights, they're not phasing.
Okay, ready? And action.
3, 2.
So we're here with John. How you going, John?
Hey, Dave.
We're just going to go through the schematics of a valve amp platform. So schematic means drawing, and I'm going to do my basic version and John's going to give you the expert version. I guess at the very beginning, John, is because I'm such an artist, here's my guitar with a sawn off head.
I've got one of those.
Yeah. Input of sorts. Rob, is it alright to check that that's in frame? On its very, very basic level, so this video will be about 10 minutes, I hope. If I go bass, mid, treble, and what else would I need, John?
It depends on the topology that we're going to be using. If we're just using a very, very basic amp where there's no gain structure, then all we would need is just a volume control, and that would be the ultra basic amplifier topology.
Just to explain what gain is actually.
Well, the gain is essentially a volume control, but it's given the name gain if there's more preamp after this initial setup. And so this volume or gain would then start to overdrive the subsequent valve stages.
Right.
And then at the end of those valve stages, then you would have a master volume.
So I'll draw that in. So yeah. I think what John's articulating there is very, very, very simple, because I know there's some people who might know a little bit more, but maybe not as much as John. Preamp stage.
Absolutely,
preamp.
Yes.
And what kind of valve would live in a preamp?
Traditionally, these days, it's a 12AX7.
12AX7.
And within that one valve, there's actually two sections. So, economy, you get two amplifier stages in that one valve. A circuit that has a volume and a bass and a mid and a treble, like the front part of a Fender design, you would have one 12AX7, and it would use both halves to give you a clean channel.
So everyone got that? So there'll be one in a Fender circuit. Just to keep it really, really simple, I don't know why I draw these like little rectangle things, but anyway. This would be an effects loop, send and return. Then I might just call that effects loop. Obviously this would go out. And what would we put in an effects loop?
Traditionally, an effects loop has been designed for time-based effects, usually chorus, flanging, delays, reverbs.
I don't know why I draw downhill, but time-based effects.
Anything that changes how it sounds without necessarily introducing a distortion, because the distortion effect should be used between the guitar and the input to the amp.
Okay, cool. So let's put that down there. Clearly, because I've pre-planned this, I don't have any room. Yeah, down here we would have distortion, and what about wah? Would that go?
The jury's out. Some people like them here, some people like them there. If you have them there, if you're in an overdrive situation, it's a different sound to when it's in between the guitar and the amp.
Or we might just put it down here just for demonstration.
Yep.
Wow. The last thing I wanted to talk about, you're an expert on, is the power amp, and what kind of tubes might we find in the power amp stage?
The list goes on. There's very, very many. These days, designers try to keep it to a few basic versions that are easily or readily available. EL84.
EL84.
And you would find those normally in a Vox AC30, AC15 design. Fender Blues Juniors use two of them. There's a whole heap of amps that use EL84s.
Another version of a valve?
Another one would be a 6V6.
6V6, and where would we find them?
Not overly popular, but usually in the lower wattage Fender amps would use them. There are a few boutique amps that get imported that have them in there. Essentially these would be classed as the smaller ones within the category of output valves.
Low wattage.
Low wattage things, yeah.
Okay.
So traditionally two of those would give you somewhere between 10 and 15 watts output.
10 to 15 what?
Then we jump from there to the medium-sized output valve, which is by far the most common valve you would find in a Fender or a Marshall, and they would be EL34s.
EL34.
And 6L6.
6L6.
And they operate similarly with similar sort of output capabilities, and you would find them in amplifiers ranging from usually between 30 watts right up to 75 watts in some designs.
I hope you can read that on my film. But anyway, I guess you'd just stack those up, wouldn't you?
Yeah. If you wanted a 100 watt amplifier, you would find 4 of these guys, as opposed to 2 of these guys for the lower wattage version.
Right.
And the actual wattage out is dependent on the size of the transformers that they would use in the amplifier and the voltages that are running around inside the amplifier. So this is just a basic overview of what it's capable of doing.
Yeah.
From there, we jump to another category of valve. That would be something like a 6550 or KT88.
Okay, let's talk about those.
Essentially, they can do twice the work of these medium-sized ones. So you could get 100 watts, for example, out of 2 of these. The 6550 you would find in an Ampeg SVT, the 300 watt big valve 50 kilo job. It's got 6 of these things in there, producing 300 watts for bass players, and they're physically larger. They run on a higher voltage. Some heavy metalers like them in their guitar amps because they're crispy when they're up loud. They don't have that top end sag that smaller valves will produce. Horses for courses, different valves are suited for different types of tonal genres, if you like. We could say 80 watts to 100 watts for 2 of them.
In pairs. Not in rares. Oh no, I've done it again, Robbie. And the last thing is that the output. So on a typical amp, what kind of ohmage?
Like a speaker will have an ohmage blank edit. Well, ohms is a resistance, but in the case of a speaker, it's actually impedance. It's they're closely related, but they are different. But for the purposes of the exercise, we could class them as similar. The resistance of the speaker needs to be matched to the amplifier for the maximum transfer of power from the amplifier to the speaker. Then we'll call it a speaker system because sometimes there might be 1 or 2 or 4 in the box. They could be traditionally a 4 ohm speaker or an 8 ohm speaker or a 16 ohm speaker, and they should be connected to the appropriate socket on the amplifier that is the same. So an 8 ohm speaker would go into an 8 ohm socket on the amplifier, and you would then get the benefit of all the wattage that is available from that amp.
Maximum efficiency, they need to be matched.
Yes.
Okay. And is there anything else?
Probably the only thing that might be worth making an extra note of is the effects loop, mostly used in amplifiers that have an overdrive function in the amp,
Right.
rather than a clean amplifier, because the effects loop is actually post all the overdriven circuitry.
Preamp, right. Okay.
So the distortion happens, then it goes out to the effects send, comes back from your pedal or your effects unit, and then gets reintroduced back into the signal chain to carry on through the amp. That would be the simple overview.
Okay, cool. So there you have it. Thanks very much.
Okay, cut.
Video. So today, guitar input, and that pen is useless. So I'm just leaving you in the head with that. So this is input. Input. So this is just for all the beginners. In this part here, it's called the preamp stage. So this is just to get a little background information about some of the high-tech stuff that we talked about by the preamp. So this is the first one here. This is the first one with the next one will be a mid control, treble control. So